List. So list is a sequence which is an ordered collection of elements. It has some properties as mentioned over here. First of all, list is mutable. That means elements inside the list can be changed. They can hold heterogeneous objects, that means objects of different types. They are dynamic, that means their size can be increased or decreased as per the requirement at any point of time. Lists can be created either by making use of the list literals, that is, the square brackets, or by making use of the list class constructor written as list with two round parentheses. Let's see this example and understand list. For example, mylist1 is a list object which is holding no values. Mylist2 is another list object created using the constructor and is also not holding any values. Then we are trying to print the type of the list and the values inside the list. When we run this, we get this as the output. The types of both the list is class list and the values inside them are nothing. So empty list is being printed. Let's see this example. In this, we have added 3 values inside the list. 1 is an integer, 2.4 is a float, and there is a string quick fox. In the next statement, we are printing the type of mylist0, that means the type of 1. Type of mylist1, that means the type of 2.4. And type of mylist2, that means the type of quick fox, that is string. In the third line, we are printing the entire list. So when we run this, we get the output as class int, class float, class str, and in the next line, all the elements of the list, that is 1, 2.4 and quick fox. Let's see this example. Over here, we have tried to use the class constructor to convert a string into a list. Then we are printing the type of the list and the contents of the list. When we run this, the type is class list and it takes every alphabet of the string and converts it into the contents of the list. So QUICK plus a space which is there between quick fox followed by F, O and X. All these elements individually are considered now the contents of the list. Similarly, we can convert a tuple into a list, a dictionary into a list, and a set into a list. We will cover tuple, dictionaries and sets a little later in this course. Let's see another example. Over here, there is mylist1, which is having some values inside it. There is a mylist2, which is using the class constructor over the mylist1 to construct another list. Then we are printing the type and the contents of mylist2. When we run this, the type of the list is my class list and the contents are also 1, 2 and quick fox. This is how one list is created by using the class constructor over another list. Let's say we write my list is equal to list23. Over here, when we run this, it will give a type error. This is because this int object 23 is not an iterable. So the class constructor requires an iterable that could be a string, a tuple, dictionary or a set only. Since 23 is not an iterable, it will raise an error. Similarly, we have another property which is one of the most important properties of list, that list is mutable. The values of the list can be modified. Let's see this example. When we run this, we get this output. For the first line, my list is having some value. The values are printed and the ID is printed. So over here, the values and the ID has been printed. Then we are changing mylist1. If we do the indexing over here, mylist1 means 2.4. So this value is being changed to 60. Then again, the ID of mylist is being printed. When we see in the output, the ID has not changed. Since the ID has not changed, we can say that the contents of the list have changed, but the reference has still been the same. This is why we say list is mutable. Again, we are trying to change mylist2 to 151. So over here, instead of quick fox, 151 is put. Then again the ID is printed and the ID is still the same. At the last, we are printing the contents of my list, which should now be 160 and 151. And this is what is printed in the last line. Heterogeneous objects in the list. So Python lists can have different types of objects inside them. It can have an integer, a float, a string, or even another list inside the same list. When we try to print each of them individually and the type of them, it will be class int for 1, class float for 2.4, class str for quick fox, and class list for the last entry, which is itself a list. The last property is that lists are dynamic. This means that elements from the list can be added or deleted during the runtime.